it's a real pleasure for me to introduce my Naval Academy classmate and friend and workout partner for 40 plus years. I just missed this morning, sorry. So our speaker is Bob Harwood, and a few fun facts about Bob before talk about why he's here. Bob went to Tehran High School, Tehran American High School in Iran. He's a retired 3-star Navy SEAL. And if you know anything about the SEALs, the number of those is pretty darn small. They didn't have even a 1-star till the 90s, and then 3 stars really since 9/11. He's currently the chief executive for the Middle East for Lockheed Martin. During his Navy career, worked in the Bush administration for Condoleezza Rice on the National Security Council. He was the deputy for General Mattis at Central Command. In 2016, I think it was, when General Flynn was removed as the National Security Advisor, President Trump offered him the job to be the National Security Advisor, and in a rare moment of clarity, he turned it down. Recently, one of his recent accomplishments was him and a group parachuting to base camp on Mount Everest. So it's crazy enough to get to base camp, but to go above base camp and parachute to the base camp is pretty crazy. But why is he here? So it's important to get a little background on him. Met him 40 plus years ago. He always wanted to be a Navy SEAL, as far back as the mid-70s. And in the 70s, being a Navy SEAL wasn't cool like it is today. No TV shows, no movies. And as a matter of fact, we just thought it was weird. His dad told him, his dad was a black iron surface warfare officer, told him it was a mistake. SEAL was a dead-end community. So I think Dad missed on that one. At the time at the Naval Academy, you couldn't go straight Navy SEAL, so he was a surface warfare officer for 3 years. So I think he knows the bow from the stern, port and starboard. He tried to educate us at the table that the wheel that we gave to Admiral Moore was actually called a helm. So we looked it up. It's a ship's wheel. Sorry, Bob. So after his first SWO tour qualifying surface warfare, he went SEAL, was doing his career, just happy to be being a SEAL, and then 9/11 happened and raised the importance and the visibility of the SEAL community. And since then, he's been a leading member of the War on Terror. In a 39-year career, he's been every hot spot in the world that you know about, and then a bunch that you don't know about. I went to his retirement after 39 years. He parachuted into his retirement in uniform, And one of the speakers at his retirement was General James Mattis, later Defense Secretary. And he said, in the course of his comments, he said, I always liked having Bob on my side. He said, because I know Bob will get the job done, and I can count on him to kill efficiently. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never used those 2 words in a sentence before. So I asked Bob, what does it mean to kill? I don't know what it means to kill inefficiently, but asked him, what does that mean? And he said, well, when there's a long list of people that need to be removed, you have to move through it quickly. So why is he here? That's the whole point. I think what he's going to tell you is that in the Navy SEALs and the War on Terror, that's a critical mission. Likewise, our mission of delivering carriers on time, getting them back to the fleet, is a critical mission to our national defense. And one of the things he's going to talk about in his book, the gouge, if you're familiar with that term, is that one of his responsibilities was to make sure that every member of his teams had the best available information and knowledge to be able to execute their job. And I think that's what we talk about here all the time. So if it's good enough for the SEALs, he's going to talk about how it applies for special warfare. It's good enough for us. And so I think he's going to have a meaningful message that kind of reinforces some of the things we've been working on. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bob.
I couldn't tell you what pleasure it was when Frank asked me to speak. And I know you all know Frank, so you're like us. We've humored him over 40 years, but we know he's badass crazy. Delusional might be the phrase we know, but we love him nonetheless. So today I want to get up here and try to give you some food for thought, some concepts of how you communicate, how you interact with each other, so you all can realize the full potential of your organization and yourselves. So my first question, and I'll go with my follically challenged brothers here, has anyone used this term before? Okay, raise your hand if you have. Okay, Captain, stand up and tell me what it means, though. When you use that term, what does it mean? Stand up so everybody can, and tell the group.
I was going to say I was standing up. So the gouge is information that's passed down, sometimes from generation to generation of sailors on a ship. It gives you, it's important information that they feel needs to be passed on from one to another.
Anybody want to add anything else to that? I think you've got it about 80% right. And it's a very, very valuable concept. So I want to deal with the concept a little bit and try to refine what it is and why it's so applicable to your business and to our Navy, your community, and your family. So let's get going here. And I think you've got it right, but this is what we consider being smarter than the situation you're at. You have that knowledge, that experience, so you're smarter than that situation you're at that moment. And not just you, but the folks that work for you, the members of your team. You want to make sure when they're in this situation, man, I don't know what the right answer is. They know how to get it, they know how to reach out and get it, and they feel empowered because now they know that knowledge. They know what's to do, the right word. And so we're going to dive down. And this is not just professionally, this is very interesting nuance here. It's personally. And this is, I'll talk about how we got, but in today's world where you're seeing the internet, people work from home, some would suggest that that divide between personal and professional is greater than ever before. When in reality, I think they're intertwined in ways you can't realize and you're never going to be able to escape. Let's take a regular 24-hour day. You're sleeping, like me, I sleep 8 hours a night. I like my sleep. You got an 8-hour workday and then you got 8 days off, 8 hours to yourself. If you're like Frank, you're drunk 3 or 4 of those 8 hours. But your biggest block of cognizant time during the day is when you work. If you're in an office space, you're interacting with each other. You're learning from each other. You're growing both personally and professionally, and those pay dividends. And I'm concerned right now, we've had this endemic issue with suicides in the military the last 10 years. Amazing to me. And I'm convinced as I look back and look at this, never before in our history have we trained and prepared our sailors, airmen, soldiers better before. The most professional force in the world. And they want to be the best Marine, the best SEAL, the best sailor they can. But because of that, we sometimes lose perspective of that personal aspect and how important it is to them, whether they realize it or not. We want them to be the best Marine, the best sailor, but we also want them to be the best person they can and have those tools and that understanding, that experience they need to succeed in life. because then they'll be the better soldier or sailor. Okay, this is Bob Harwood. I was voted best hair of my high school, which is a curse. This is the day my father enlisted me in the Navy. In fact, that's him enlisted me. I was going the E1 to go to the Naval Academy Prep School. He enlists me, turns around to the guy. He retires. He says to the guy, he's your problem now. Let me know how it works out for you. But send me postcards. And then I didn't see him for 6 years later until I graduated from the Naval Academy. But that's where I grew up, on the gouge. My father always impaired on me, Bob, short life to live. Do all the good you can in life. Not for yourself, but for others, because that will come back and pay dividends to you and make you rich. And now I'll show you why this was so important to him. He was a Brooklyn kid, went to Kings Point. As far as he was concerned, anything south or west of New York was pretty much uncivilized. Don't go there. Graduated from Kings Point in 1942 and went off to the war on a ship out in the Pacific. And let's take a look between my dad. He retired in 1974. He was the chief engineer on the USS Independence, his last job in the States, before he went to Iran, where he was the advisor to the Iranian Navy from 66 to 74, then retired and went into business there. But let's look at his world. They had radios then to communicate. They didn't have internet. This is one I love. Phone stations. You wanted a phone, you had one at home, or you had to find a phone booth. Now we talk every time, anywhere, incessantly. This was great. When I was making this slide, I had a tech guy helping me, and he spelled in the S-E-X and then in capital T-E-N-T. What the hell? Is it a sextant where you go to have sex in a tent? No. And I asked these young engineers now we have in my company, you guys know what a sextant or a slide rule is? No. So they Google them and go, who the hell would use this shit? I want to just choke their ass out. Slide rules, unmanned aircraft. The whole point, and this is my favorite. Growing up in the Navy, we operated and lived under Unidir. Okay, boss? Because when the ship left, you were on your own. Hey, boss, this is what I'm going to do. If you got a problem, let me know. And you did it. I've worked with the Army incessantly the last 20 years. I was an aide to a 4-star Army general. That was interesting. But unless you had direct approval to do something, you couldn't do it. Unidir is as foreign a concept to them as ever. And it's one of the real tools that powers the Navy and passes that power down to the lowest common denominator. Are you doing that in your business to realize that full potential? But the point being, at that time, the gouge was so important because you couldn't get information. You couldn't relay it. My dad's on this ship for 2 years. The crew was his family. They had to take care of each other personally and professionally. So they were incessantly, have you got the gouge? Do you know how to do this? Nah, that's not the best way. Here's how we should. Or if the new guy had something better, he had the gouge. But there was this incessant, never-ending interaction to determine what the best method, the best approach on any issue was, personally or professionally, the gouge. Today, you got a much different problem. Any of my young kids, I say something, first thing they're on the internet, blah, 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 oh, well, that's horse shit. They have no idea who put it on there, why they're telling them, are they selling them something? Is it really experience-based or someone pushing an agenda? So now they're inundated with all this crap every day. They can't lift their heads up high enough out of the damn phone to realize, no, this is what you really need to know. So I want to capture what I think the principles of the gouge are. And the gouge is a couple things here, but the intent is to collaborate and shared situational awareness so that you know everything I know. And we collaborate and incessantly so you know that. So the E1 on the ship, who may have the best idea of the ship, is empowered to pass that up, and you can all learn and incorporate and morph your gouge into that knowledge. You want to empower each of your members so they feel they can share and collaborate and that they're heard and they're valuable to your team. And at the core of all of this is people. Here's an interesting fact. Captain, how many people on this planet right now?
8 billion.
That's exactly right. That's more people than have died cumulatively of the last 6 generations. That's how important people are to everything we do. So you can have the internet and all, but at the core of all of this is people, especially in our business. So what we're trying to do is make sure they're problem solving, they look at results, they're oriented, they're optimized. Those are the things you're trying to do to help those people, empower those people that will help you. And then finally, ensure that the full synergy, everything you do, gives the best results, the most effective and efficient manner. And that's what the gouge is really supposed to do. So here are the principles of the gouge as I see it. First off, it's experience-based. It's been proven. Someone's done it before. They know what's going on. And in your business, I think that's everything. I can't imagine how many times you recruit and you got to train the new one. Do they have that experience-based answer that validates the concept? Pretty complex world, a lot of stuff coming at you. Is it simple? With all this other crap, can you deliver? I'll get to some examples of all this so you can see how it applies and relates to your business. It's timely. When you need it, you can do it. There's a speed of relevancy to information. And you need it when you need it. And in today's world, when information's flowing quicker than ever before, and results matter quickly before, there's a timing component of this. Logical? Man, that made sense. Or, no, that's crazy as hell, like most of my conversations with Frank. What the hell are you talking about, Frank? So logical is a component of it. And then really, the test stone, it's irrefutable. If I throw the gouge out here on the table, no one else can come up with a better one, or that's the better gouge. And then finally, you have to believe in it. Not just the results, but the culture, the processes, and what it gives you. It gives you everything you need when you need it. And so you have to believe in the process and the people. And I grew up in this. This has always been the key to my success is I got the gouge. I got the gouge not necessarily from the people I worked for, but more so from the people who worked for me. I could hear them, and boy, they always had better ideas and better ways to do it, and we inculcated that. So ability to lead. I believed in them, and I hope they believed in me as much. And that's the real part of this culture you guys want to capture in your business, or at least in my view. Okay, we're screwed because now okay, here we go. Okay, I was a SEAL for 40 years, and we're a small community, not unlike you. There's about 2,500, 2,600 active duty SEALs. We were much smaller than that, but the gouge, we lived off the gouge. We were intertwined, so I'm going to illustrate some examples of our community that may be relevant and you can extract because your size isn't much different. But I want to talk about culture first and shared experiences because in the SEAL community, that defines us. I don't know you have this conference here, what other time you interact, everybody seems to know Frank, I don't know if that's for professional or entertaining purposes, but, do you have that culture and experience? I'll show you this video. And this is really what defines a SEAL and why we become so close, because we all experience this. And there's no difference between officers or enlisted. Is the volume up on that?
Ring the bell 3 times, put your helmet on the ground, you're done.
2 minutes, you don't make it, you do it again!
Have you been tested this hard ever in your life?
Never.
Winning here is a conscious decision. Make up your mind whether you want to pass or choose to fail.
All right, now, gentlemen, I'm going to introduce y'all to something called not being able to breathe.
Andrew, come back. Come back to the light.
Those are guys quitting.
Take all this shaking and all this cold, harness it, turn it into aggression.
You just prove to your bodies, through your mind, that you can push yourself further than you thought possible.
Go get wet! Run!
I'm at my limit, so that's it.
You sure you want to be here? Yes, I do. Are you?
The bottom line is every SEAL, officer enlisted, goes through that process a year together. And it cuts, we lose a lot of guys. We run about 85% attrition. So we have this common bond. You know, when you see a guy with a trident, you're wearing a trident, you know he's paid this price. That's how bad he wants to be a part of this community. Now, I had come off a ship. I was a SWO for 4 years because they wouldn't let you be SEALs coming out of the academy. And that really sucked. So going here was like holiday Rudy Toots for me, man. I thought it was, oh, we just get to work out and play every day. And my whole 40-year career was like that. But so it doesn't appeal to everyone, but I thought it was much better than being a SWO. Well, and there's proof. Frank, if you could stand up, Frank's a year younger than me, so you can see how hazardous the career can be from a SWO perspective as opposed to a SEAL. So just to give you more about our culture, because this is what you've got to find. What's your guys' culture? What are those bonds that bring you together so that you develop that trust and confidence in each other? And yours may be more knowledge-based than ours is physical-based. But you can see it's a tough program. We try to find, and forget about the officers, because we get 80 officers a year. There are 400 applying for them. They're a dime a dozen, so to speak. But it's hard finding these young kids who are willing to think they can be a SEAL. So we try to find 1,200 a year. You can see we're running about 900. And you can see the attrition rate's pretty tough. We try to get, we're hopefully getting 200 out a year, so we have the numbers. The BUDS class that just finished this last week started 165, 21 made it through, and they still got 9 more months of training to go through. So it's a tough line, but that's, again, to the core of what you're doing. And this is the size of the community. But this all, that uniqueness, that difficulty in builds our culture and those relationships. And this is a typical SEAL career. And in fact, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Like Frank was a little honest. When I told my dad I was going to SEALs, he says, God damn it, I never did think you're too bright. I just didn't think you're this dumb. There's no future in that SEAL shit. Well, my dumbass daughter did the same thing. After being a daughter of a SEAL for 30 years, she goes and marries one of them. What the hell was she thinking about? And this is my son-in-law's career. So you can see he does the year and a half. He'd been at college. He went through college in San Luis Obispo, was out doing some finance stuff. His dad was a Navy SEAL. So you see we cross-pollinate in our tribe a lot. But so he does the year where he's off being to get the trident, that top row, and then he gets into the SEAL team. In his first 6 months, they send him off at individual training. Okay, in the first platoon, you're going to be the weapons guy. So we're sending you to Heckler and Koch to learn those, Sig Sauer, and for 6 months, we individually train you to be the weapons guy for that platoon. The next 6 months, you come together, and you now and your 14 guys of your platoon go out and train together. This is how we sink a ship. This is how we capture a guy. This is how we assault a target. The next 6 months, you do that with the Army. You do it with the fast movers. You do it with ships. You're doing joint combined training, all that. And so you do that for 18 months, and then congratulations, you deploy. My son-in-law's first deployment was Afghanistan. He comes back from that. He goes right back into the hopper again. Does that for 2 years. Yemen, that one, he was in Yemen when Sana'a fell, so they had to blow their kit and E&E out. He then comes home, reloads, and now it's Syria, and he's just finished Iraq. So that's his first 10 years in the team. He's now a chief. And that's what he's done. And so he was home maybe 300 or 400 days of those 10 years. And I'm going to celebrate my 40th wedding anniversary in May. And the beauty is we've lived together almost 5 or 6 of those 40 years. Navy family. But it's a tough life. But here's the point, back to that other point. There is no division for these guys between personal and professional. Those guys are together for 10 years. He's more with his guys than his wife and kids. And they learn and grow from each other. I can tell you, they're incessantly looking at each other and taking care of each other. Hey, Billy, are you with Navy Mutual Aid or are you some other insurance company? Hey, you're going to buy a new car. Why should you do that? They share ideas. They collaborate. They take care of each other. They treat each other as a family, and they're incessantly, hey, what's the gouge on this issue? Here's the gouge. They live to educate, train, and take care of each other. How do you create that in business? I'll give you some examples. Okay, wait a minute, before I start this. Now here's a guy, a SEAL, who's been 10 years of war, Iraq, Syria, Yemen. He's seen it all. And I'm going to show you him in operation, but this is a little, if you're uncomfortable with body parts and stuff like that, please leave the room, because this is a pretty graphic video. But this is that 10-year-old experienced SEAL in the middle of it all.
Hey, where are you? Can you help me? No! Get it! It's on my leg. Take her. Take her. Oh, she's squirming. Take her. Please, I have to get a shot on my leg.
A little poop on his leg and he falls apart, for God's sake. But it just reveals the personal nature of all of us. We all have work, you have work to do, but at the end of the day, we all have our lives and stuff. And you want to learn from every opportunity and everyone you can, and you hope they're just as focused on your well-being. So are you creating the cultures of doing that in your work? We go into Iraq. So 9/11, we had just come back from Hawaii. I moved back from Hawaii to Coronado in August of 2001. I take command the last day of August because that's when the 06 fitness guys want to get rated. And I am now the commander of the SEAL community on the West Coast, all the SEAL teams responsible for the Middle East. I'm in my office that day. I had a good PT. We're watching everything on television. I get the phone call. Bob, go to Afghanistan, find the son of a bitches, capture them or kill them. Okay, we can do that. Click. And we got on a plane and left that day. We went to Bahrain, rallied the guys, flew into Oman, and by the 1st of October, we were in Afghanistan. But now I've got these 200 SEALs who've never been in combat before. And I'm trying to make this, and it's coming at them fast. Where are we going? Who are we attacking? How, blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to make it, and the principle of the gouge, as simple as possible and really prioritize what I wanted them to do and remember day in, day out. And I hope your work is just as clear to you about what you focus on and what you think about and what your priorities every day. So our logo was mission first, people always. Look, we've been trained, I had 20-some years in, to do the mission. So I say, guys, we're going to do every mission. But each of you are more important to me than any of these booger-eating morons we're going after. So you're always first and foremost of this thing. So number one, we're going to accomplish the mission. When CENTCOM tasks us to take down this building or capture that guy, we're going to get it done. That's number one. Number two, everyone goes home. You go in on a target and you think you're overwhelming firepower, run away. I'm okay with that. They ain't going anywhere. We'll come back and get them tomorrow. We'll get them the next night. I don't give a damn. They're Joe Schmuckatelli. I've spent too much money. I've got too much invested on you. I can't afford to lose any of you here. So unless you're comfortable, and I'll get into some examples of this, you really know, we'll get it tomorrow. And then finally, I think this, do the right thing. You're going to live with your actions the rest of your lives. And unfortunately, actions of some have created very stress. Well, we'll talk about it. But do the right thing. You know, if you don't have to kill someone, don't kill them. If you could take risks to ensure you do that, do that. And I'll give you examples how we. But this is all I want to reinforce in them every day of what they do. And I go back to when I first showed up at the Naval Academy Prep School. Shit was coming at us, fight. I couldn't. And one of the first class stood up and said, hey guys, don't worry about all this stuff. You just got to remember one thing while you're at NAPS. Get the grades. Because if you get the grades, you'll go to the academy. Oh, okay. I can understand that. And that's what I wanted my guys. With all this planning and stuff, keep these three things in mind. If you meet those every day, we're usually successful. So I hope your understanding of your mission and role is as simple. So I'm going to give you some examples now. What you're looking at here, the top wall is Tarnack Farms, is UBL's training facility we took when we took Kandahar. And what you're seeing there is all these compounds we assaulted were protected by walls. So we were placing a charge. You see that board holding up that and then blowing holes through the walls. So when we assaulted, we weren't going in the front gate. We'd blow a hole and come at them any way we wanted. But the bottom light is even more, you're looking at through night vision goggles of a guy who's gone through that wall training. But more importantly, see that little red dot on the side there of that wall? Everybody see that? That's a laser off your weapon. We operate at night. We own the night. And I could sit in, if I turn these lights off, I'd see all of you very clearly. And anyone you want, I got a laser on your forehead. And so and I told my guys this, look, all these Afghans, everyone's got guns there. They have for hundreds of years. Just because they have a gun, and even when they point it at you, doesn't mean they're a bad guy. That's just their normal reaction. And we're going to get more out of him if we capture him as opposed to killing him, especially if he's a good guy. So our guys, our kind of SOP was keep the laser on his head. If he cranks a shot off you, then you know he's a belligerent, you can drop him. But they can't see you well enough at night to target you, so you could assume that risk to do the right thing. And it enhanced our risk somewhere, but it was acceptable risk. But that was the policy and the ROE we adapted. And it paid huge dividends to us at the end. And I can't tell you the number of times we come across guys about as close as pointing guns at each other and no one shooting at the end of the day and resolving the issue. A great element of risk, but the payoff was so significant. As I said, we brought everyone home. This is a great video because this is, now watch this carefully. So we took great risk in everything we do, assaulted compounds. We'd go at night, couldn't see, we'd surround the compounds, call people out, and then go in. This is one of those scenarios where guys are up on the buildings. Those are all our guys. I'll show this twice, but watch carefully. They've now taken the compound. They're calling the guys out from these little rooms, and this is the result. Okay, I'm going to show that again. What happened was the combatant, instead of coming out, decided to shoot an RPG. The back blast from that RPG, because it was in this mud, collapsed the roof. And the guy who happened to be on that roof was my son-in-law. And he ended up drilling that guy before he hit the ground. See that top right? Watch that guy on the roof. Bad timing. But then our lesson, our gouge after that, don't go on the roofs anymore. This, as I said, I grew up in the environment of the gouge from my earliest days. It was a big component at the Naval Academy where we looked at each other. And it was always some of this moral dilemma. There was an honor code that if you took a test, you could not share the information of that test with anyone till the end of the day. They changed that years later because here's the typical situation. I wasn't an academic stud like Frank was. You know, I focus on physical stuff. But we had this brigade commander, brilliant guy. You guys know him, Stavridis, Admiral Stavridis. He had a roommate who was not as gifted, was having a tough time, double E final. He was under 2.0 at the time. He either had to pass the test or not. If he passed, he was out, he was going to the fleet. Stavridis had the test first period, and they both had nothing second period. His roommate was taking it third period, and they were back in their room. We'll never know if he shared the information, but they changed the honor code so that you could share information and made the teachers have to change the test every period so they did not put the students in a compromising situation. Anyhow, that guy ended up graduating, passing the double E, and became a very infamous Marine 3-star admiral, one of our great warriors. So we'll never know that day if the gouge got shared or not. But it ended up being a good news story. But this is indicative of that type of culture. This was the first mission of the invasion of Iraq. Our job was to go in and take down all the oil infrastructure in the south. Because through this pumped, I think it was 20,000 gallons of oil a day. You see that where those green slides are, that's Alpha Peninsula. Those would pump out under these underwater pipelines to those oil platforms. And we had to take down all 5 simultaneously, because if you took down 2 and not the others, they could still blow it and create this huge environmental impact in the Gulf. So we've been practicing for 3 months. We're up in Kuwait, all ready. Franks calls me in and says, okay, Bob, we're going on the night of 21st of March. You guys do this. You got to get it done before daylight, and then we're across the line and going. Okay, sir, got that. Call the boys in, brief them and all. Okay, all set, and off they go. There's a knock on my door shortly there. And let me say, you see those top 3 green arrows with all those helicopters? We normally don't assault that way. Normally we would swim in across the beach, sneak up, all that kind of stuff. The problem with Alpha Peninsula, the tide is about 500 yards of mud banks. You can't swim across you can't get there. So we had to do this higher risk assault with helicopters right onto the X. So Frank says, all right, call all the boys, we're good to go. You got 48 hours, get your stuff, we're ready. They go off. About 30 minutes later, there's a knock on my door, and it's the JO who's leading. JO, he was a commander at the time, leading that assault in those helicopters to Alpha Peninsula. He walks into my office and says, hey, sir, me and the boys think we're going to be slaughtered. We think they're going to hear those helicopters coming in, they're going to shoot us out of the sky, and we're going to be slaughtered. And as you know, subsequent later in Iraq and Afghanistan, we had 2 of those similar events where we lost 34 SEALs in 2 nights of 2 helicopters that were shot down. But this was before this was 9/11. And I say to the young commander, I say, well, that's not the way I assess it. And his name was Adam at the time. Adam, I think these guys know they're trapped on Alpha, they're isolated, and if they resist, we'll just blow them away with close air support, so I don't think you're going to get much resistance. But if you really think you're going to be slaughtered, I'll call Franks and say, we can't do the mission. We're going to look a little silly because we've been rehearsing and tell them we could do this, but I'm willing to do that. So he goes off. He comes back in 30 minutes later and knocks on the door. Okay, hey, boss, we still think we're going to be slaughtered, but we'll do the mission. Okay, he leaves. I immediately throw up. Now I'm nauseous, sick. I think I'm going to get a bunch of these guys killed, and I'm just over the edge. I couldn't sleep for the 2 days. I'm just throwing up. I mean, I think I'm going to get a bunch of guys killed, where for the year in Afghanistan, I never lost a guy, and now the first day of Iraq, and I'm sweating. I'm going to get all these guys killed because of my plan and their trust in my assessment. Thank God it went as planned, but here's the thing that really drove it, and I think it's, and I respect that kid so much, but I think his culture, this process of the gouge, where his family looked over and taking such care, and we looked after each other, made him step up to the plate that day and assume this risk. And here's why it's so, I still get emotional about it. Anybody remember the invasion of Panama? Anybody know why we invaded Panama? What was the final straw that broke the camel's back? Noriega was the guy, but why did he'd been radel saddling for months? It was an event. Okay. On one day, we had a base in Panama, and 4 young officers, Navy, Marine, and 2 Army guys were driving back to, they come to a checkpoint where the commandancia guys were hassling them all and wanted them out of the vehicles. They took off. Commandancia shot at him, killed one, wounded another. But 5-10 minutes later, another car comes to that checkpoint. A young naval officer, SEAL, and his wife. And like you said, they took him to 2 different prisons and violated him through the night. And the next day, when they released him, he was hospitalized for 3 weeks because he was so violently tortured. That's the same guy who did this mission, who was willing to risk his life again on my assessment. How do you find people like that? What drove him? Why was he acceptant of that risk? And I believe it's because of that culture, that family, that duty that he had grown and lived on from his time at the academy and the personal impact it had on him. So that's how powerful the gouge can be. Not the phrase itself, but the culture and the process of taking care of each other, educating, and making sure you all have that information to be smarter than the situation you're in. Amazing, sir. He's now an ordained minister when he retired. Amazing guy. So when I think, so now I'll shift to the business aspect, and I think of you guys, and I haven't read, I started reading your brochures and all, but when I think of who you are, and I want to make it simple, you are one of our nation's most strategic resources. Who here can tell me, I'll let the military guys off the hook because it'd be embarrassing for them. Why are we a superpower, Gerald?
We are a superpower because of our armed forces.
That's right.
The most money on our armed forces.
But here's the nuance of that. No other country can project power like the United States. And every country in the world knows this. If we want to touch, strike, capture, kill, do anything we want to do anywhere in the world at any time, we're the only country in the world that can do that. We are indeed a superpower because of that. And you are the critical enabler to do that. If you don't get these carriers up and running on time, maintenance, deliver, we can't do that. Now, we're a great nation Because we, like no other country in the world, are willing to go, spend our resources, fight, sacrifice our most precious resource, our people, to fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness anywhere in the world. So anyhow, you're our most strategic resource as I see it. And this is just my opinion. You cannot fail. If you fail, we fail as a military. And it's got to be on time when it's needed. It can't wait for you because some Billy Bob didn't get it's got to happen. And then finally, I want all of you doing this for the rest of your life and for always, like Frank Burke. Of course, no one else would hire Frank, but we need your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom, your gouge to ensure we're that superpower for infinitum. So I want this community to take care of each other so you all like it, enjoy it, and be part of it. Now, granted, you guys work hard. I was the guy in the back when they asked who doesn't work. That's me. I've never worked. That's why I came in the Navy in the first place, and BSC. I didn't want to work for a living. But you guys do hard work, but I hope they take care of you and make it so you want to stay in this profession forever. I want you guys. I need you. The country needs you. So as I think of you guys and trying to keep it simple, those are the principles and core of what you're about and what I would emphasize. So now we've talked about culture. I'm just going to throw a couple more minutes. I'll get off the stage here. Some processes, because gouge is a culture, but there's also processes that allow you to be the gouge. And my first real introduction was as a one-star admiral in Afghanistan hunting. I spent many years in Afghanistan besides the invasion. I was the deputy at JSOC, a one-star, and I'm in hunting down guys in Afghanistan. Stan McChrystal took Iraq, I took Afghanistan, so hunting down. And I'm waiting for the two-star list to come out because I'm hoping I'll be selected. I get to go back to be Coronado and be the SEAL in charge of community. So I get this call, hey, your next orders, you're going to Coronado. I'm thinking, ooh, I came out on the two-star list, good to go. Then I had this guy call me, a guy by Jim Mattis, call me one day, a day later. Hey, Bob, you're not going to Coronado. Well, I'm not, IG or something, you know. No, I'll call you later. Okay, click, okay. Some guy calls me the next day, hey, you're going to be the deputy at Joint Forces Command. What the hell's Joint? So I Googled Joint Forces Command. Oh, no, the deputy's a three-star. They got this confused or something. Oh, no. Mattis calls me, yep, you're going to be my deputy at JFCOM. Okay, so I go from 1 to 3-star. So I was a little nervous about that. I get to the command, and the first thing Mattis says to me, anyone here familiar what Joint Forces Command was? He stood it down afterwards. Global force apportionment of troops, concept development, experimentation, billion-dollar resources, all this. And I show up the first day, and Mattis, in front of a crowd like this, introduced me. I want you to meet Bob Harwood. And I'm like, ooh, okay. Bob's not my deputy. Bob is my co-commander. When he speaks for me. And I'm like, oh, it took me almost down to my knee. But he was so astute, so powerful and knowledgeable on how to empower people and encourage them to speak and be a part of the process. He demonstrated that day. And the first job he told me, Bob, I need you to be my knowledge management guy. Okay, let me go see what that means. Because he wanted to do exactly what you did. How do we collaborate, share information across this global domain so everyone has that same information? I'll show you some of the processes we adopted for this. And this I've used in the Middle East. Our philosophy was, if you're at your computer and you click your mouse 3 times, you should be able to get any information you want. If not, the system's failing you. And so we encouraged that. And if someone could identify where they couldn't get that, we fixed the system to incorporate. So the first thing we do, and I do this in my current business now, anyone in my business wants to know the Middle East, they come to our page, They can click anyone who's there, have their phone number, their internet address, what they're doing, where their schedule are, and what we're doing in those countries. One click on the button. You want to know what key events, what's coming up? We have a page, and that's one click. Any events in the Middle East. And anyone on the team can add on this. You just got attribute it to you or the POC. But this way, everyone can track what's going on in this vast region. I don't care if it's Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Egypt. It's going to be listed up there, and we come together once a week to go over it. Every program we do, and there's a hell of a lot of programs, you could click on the mouse, see the program, see the values, see the stuff. Now, by the way, when I did this with the current company, there were a lot of people, oh, you can't do that. Oh, why not? Well, because somebody's going to leak or something. Okay, when that happens, let's deal with it. Well, 4 years ago, so you're going to have all the naysayers telling you why you can't do stuff. But let's go back to that gouge sheet. Show me irrefutably why I can't do this. And no one's been able to do that yet. So you got to be a little bold, a little pushy in what you do. But the problem was everyone was so scared of sharing information we never did, and it did more damage by not having it than having it. So it's a part of that culture and process. What are you willing to share? We have people traveling, moving on, people coming in country. So every person updates if you're at work, this is blank. But if you're leaving the country or you're traveling somewhere, it's up there. If you put it in red, it means you're on leave and no one bothers you. But everyone this way, anyone in Lockheed Martin or my business, I want to know where they are, click one button, it's going to show me. So if I'm in Abu Dhabi and need to talk to a guy in Dallas, I know, oh, he's not at office, or he's in today, but we're 12-hour time limit, so I got time. And everybody keeps this up themselves. And then finally, I got visitor. We have all sorts of people coming to UAE all the time, and none of them tell me or clear me. And that was a problem, because they'd be going in and seeing customers without me knowing about them. The customer. So what we did, we went back to our travel agency. Anytime someone books a trip, it shows up on our tracker. So no one has to do any work, but I sure know when anyone's coming to country and what they're doing. Then I can send them an email. Hey, why are you coming? Okay. But this, I'll end on this. I got one more after this. This is probably, have you ever talked to anyone about your emails? Anyone here? Tell me what you've talked about, Captain.
So, as a captain in the Navy, I get a lot of emails.
We all do.
A lot. So, a standing order for everyone that works for me is subject line, you need to tell me what it is and whether it's action or info. If you're just forwarding me something and subject line doesn't tell me that I need to pay attention, chances are I'm not going to get to it for a while. And if I'm not on the to line, if it's a CC, that goes in a separate folder, and that's stuff I get to when I can get to it. And I've let everyone know, you need to put in the subject line if I need to pay attention to this and get on it quickly.
So, and that's your staff, or is that company-wide?
I'm working on spreading.
Okay. What about BCC? How do you use your BCC? We have a no BCC here. I have any BCC people in this audience? You want to know what I use? Ooh, stand up, young lady. She's brave enough. What do you use BCC for? I am the king of BCC. I'll admit it. It's kind of like being an alcoholic. I must have 30 or 40 people on some of my BCCs. And I've only once been burnt by that. A kid, I was an aide to a 4-star general. And he'd send me something that had other 4 stars, and I BCC'd, and the guy responded all to it. Oh, shit. The general called me in, and I'm going in for one of my asks. did you BCC? Yes, sir, I did. Well, why? Well, sir, he needs to know this. And he goes, good job, Bob. I like that. I hadn't thought of that. I BCC the hell out of it. And I've never really had anyone burn me replying except that one time. Because here's why. And I'll go back to a story my dad shared with me. So I get selected, I was forced to go be the aide for this 4-star general. My dad gave me some great gouge. My dad was the king of gouge. Said, Bob, look, that general's going to be gone in 2 or 3 years. You got another 20 or 30 years. And all the people you work with at that staff, they're going to know you for a long time. So do you take care of them or you share? And so that's where I started it. Anything I was doing that I thought impacted the J3 drivers or anything, I'd have put them all on the BCC. So they knew and had that experience. And it paid big dividends because the guy I ended up making be the aide after me had been BCCing him for a year. He knew the job before. So that BCC can be so powerful to inform, educate. Sure, there's a little risk, but the benefits will far outweigh the risk. But you as a company, because this is your primary mode of communications, and I'll bet his attitude on it is much different than yours. But if you haven't talked about this, understand how you do and what you're going to use it for. And if you're not, and you're all a smart group here, you know who you can BCC or CC, but take those opportunities to really share information and distribute it through these mechanisms. Okay, so I think that's all. I want to just close from one last slide. And this just is things, people look at things differently. And this is an example. I got an email from my daughter and my son-in-law. And my granddaughter it was her day of her first birthday. She's 1 year old. And they send me an email, we're not having any more children. Why?
Hey, what are you doing? Do you know what time it is?
I don't care.
Did you just say, I don't care?
Her first words, I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how happy that made me. I want her to just drive them to their knees. Payback is a bitch. So today I just wanted to give you some thoughts and concepts about how you communicate. What's your culture? How do you get to be the best of the best? Because we need you to be. This country needs you to be. We need you to be efficient. We need to be effective. Are you looking at the way you collaborate, share information, and work together to realize that full potential? So today, hopefully, I can give you some thoughts. If we want to take a couple questions, like do we, if we have time, Kelly. But thank you very much.
Any takers?
We're off the hook. Thank you very much, everyone.